In this tutorial, I'll show you how to build your very first playbook. Okay, so the first thing you need to do after logging into your Autopilot account is navigate to campaigns. And then you need to click New Campaign, select Playbook Campaign, click Next, and we'll choose Start from Scratch because we want to build this playbook all by ourselves. So at the top here, you need to give the playbook a name, and we're going to call this Playbook Re-Engagement. And as an example, I'm going to step you through a scenario where we have a product where people sign up and we want to target people who haven't bought after 30 days and they haven't logged into their account either. So we want to try and send them some nurture emails to re-engage them. And then if they start clicking on those emails and showing interest in our content, then we're going to reach out to them and try and put them in touch from someone from our sales team. And this is a great way of keeping your brand top of mind because when people sign up to your product, they may not yet be ready to buy. Or when people visit your website and browse your products, they may not be ready to buy, but if you keep your brand top of mind, they will be in the future, and this is how you can convert them. So we have to select how people enter this playbook, and these are a bunch of quick start presets. So for example, if you were sending a birthday coupon when it's someone's birthday, you could click it's their birthday on this preset and it would automatically set up the entry criteria for the playbook. If you wanted to send some messages when a specific activity occurs, like they make their first purchase from your store or they subscribe to your product, you could use this particular preset here. But we're not going to use a preset today. We're going to select a match a filter because I want to show you how to build out your own filter when you're creating a playbook. So under people enter when, we have the filter. So we'll click that. And what we need to do to target the people who haven't logged in 30 days is use an activity. Now we actually have for this particular demo account, a custom activity created called logged in. So we'll go ahead and select that. And we get 5 different options here. We have occurs, has or has not occurred, first occurred, last occurred, and frequency and time. So occurs is best used for when you want them to enter immediately when a certain activity happens. For example, they place an order in your store and you want to send them a confirmation email or a follow-up email. That's when you would use occurs because it will enter them into the playbook immediately when that activity occurs. Has or has not occurred is a great way of segmenting out behavior. So for example, if you need someone to upload a profile photo when they sign up to your application as a step, and if they don't, you want to send them reminders, you can say uploaded profile image has not occurred. So we'll enter all these people into the playbook. First occurred and last occurred is a great way of looking at the historical nature of an activity. So if it first occurred before X date or more than 30 days ago, we'll enter them into the playbook. And last occurred is very similar. It's just the last occurrence of that activity. But we're going to use frequency and time today because we want to say that if they've logged in less than one time in the last 30 days, we want them to enter our playbook. Now, we have this additional option down here where, and I'll show you that a little bit later how that works, but it essentially allows us to add more criteria to the activity to say, for example, when they logged in, their plan was the gold plan when they logged in. So we could change the behavior of the playbook based on some additional attributes on that activity. So we'll click done and you can see now we can just read it. People enter when logged in less than one time in the last 30 days. Now we also want to make sure they're not yet a customer because we don't want to nurture customers and try and convince them to buy because they've already bought. So we'll add another condition. We'll select audience and we'll say member of audience is not customers. And this is because I already have a customer audience set up. So I can use that customer audience to remove people who are not yet members of the customer audience from entering this playbook. So people enter when logged in less than one time in the last 30 days and is not a member of customers audience. So we'll go ahead and save that. And you can see we've now successfully set up our entry criteria for this playbook. Now, the next thing we need to look at is when people exit the playbook. So if they become a customer during them belonging to this playbook, we obviously want to remove them from the playbook, because if they kept getting emails and then a sales outreach and they're already a customer, we would look pretty stupid. So we can come in here and edit it and add a condition to the default exit criteria. So we'll add a condition and we'll say audience member of is customers. And so now when people become a customer, they'll automatically be exited from this playbook. So now it says people exit when they receive all messages, or no messages are sent in 30 days, or is a member of customers audience. Now let me explain the two above. So they receive all messages just means that they receive all messages that are in this playbook, because once all of the messages have been sent, there's really no reason for them to be in the playbook anymore. The next is no messages are sent for 30 days. And this can be modified and changed to any sort of days or number of days that you want. The idea being that once we start adding messages, you'll see in a moment, we can add specific filter criteria to those messages. So they can only be received when the customer, in this case, validates certain filters. So for example, we could say, if they've clicked on more than 3 emails in our nurture series, then we want to send them a particular email. So if they haven't met any of the criteria and we haven't sent any messages for 30 days, we're going to take them out of there, because it's unlikely they're going to meet that criteria in the future if they haven't in a 30-day period. So the next option we have to set up is send messages, and this is defaulting to at least 3 days apart. So we want to go in and edit this, and we're going to increase it to 7 days apart, because we're going to send a nurture email to keep our brand top of mind every week, just so they remember who we are, and maybe they'll come back and sign up for our product, or if not, they might be interested in our content, and then we can re-engage them. There's 2 additional options below this. There's between a specific time range and delay the first message. So let's look at between a specific time range first. So we'll click into this, scroll down, and you can see by default it says 9 to 5, and then it has the time zone that this account is set to. So if your time zone is in like PST, that would come up in here by default, but you can also change it so you can target a playbook to a specific time zone. Now, there's a great option below which says, when possible, deliver in a subscriber's local time zone within range. So if I say I want to send messages between 9 and 5 in Sydney, and I check this box and I have an international audience, what it will make sure is that if I'm in Los Angeles, it will send between 9 and 5 in that time zone as well. So it will copy this range in whatever time zone that customer or subscriber belongs to, and it just means I'll get emails at reasonable hours instead of 3 a.m. or some ungodly hour. So we'll uncheck that because we don't need it in this case. But these are options that are available to you. And then the next option is don't deliver messages on weekends. So if we check this, it'll just do what it says. It won't deliver messages on weekends. We don't need any of these options, so we'll flick that off. The next is delay the first message. So this is great when you've got 2 playbooks running side by side. For example, a user signs up to your product and you want to send a playbook with onboarding messages, and you don't really care if they're a trial user, a free user, or a paying user. No matter what, you want to try and onboard them into your product and get them up and running. So you want the messages to go out no matter what. But then you've got a sales playbook as well, which is looking for certain behaviors that the customer's doing in the product. And you want to send sales messages based on those behaviors. But the first message from both those playbooks would arrive the moment that customer signs up, which is going to look a bit silly. And it probably won't make the sales interactions look real. So what you can do on the sales playbook in this example is delay the first message by like 15 minutes. So it looks more realistic, like a person could have actually written the email and lodged it into their inbox about 15 minutes after sign up. And it's just more likely to lead to a higher open rate and click rate on that email. So it's a great option, pretty advanced, but it's an option nonetheless. So we'll click save on that, and we'll leave it at least 7 days apart. Now, finally, attribution. Now, attribution should automatically set up if you've connected to one of our primary data sources. So I've connected this account to Recurly, which is a primary data source. and the attribution automatically sets up for me, so I don't really need to do anything. So it's going to attribute all of the subscription changes, so new business in this case, or expansion, to this re-engagement playbook. So if people become a customer based on the emails that I send them in this playbook, it will attribute based on my attribution model that I set up the MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, to the messages in this particular playbook. Now, you can change this to whatever you want. So if your goal is not subscriptions and you want to change it to something else, you can go in here and edit it and just change it. But it's always a great starting point to just leave it at the default setting. Okay, so now the next step is to add our messages to the playbook. So you can click here, add message, and normally you would go ahead and create a series of new messages, but to save time in this video, I've created some messages already. So I'm going to click choose existing messages, and I'm going to select these nurture emails, and I'm going to add them to the playbook here. So you can see I've brought in a series of emails, and I can drag and drop these into a particular priority order. So you can see it says sent in priority order from top to bottom. So if I want them to get 6 ways to get the job done as the first message they get, and I want top 10 examples of best widgets as the second, I can just rearrange them into the particular order I want them in. You can also navigate over to this visual mode, and you can see the actual emails that will be sent. This is just a screenshot preview that appears in here. So you can actually see and just scroll down and get a better understanding of what emails they'll get over time. So I'll just go in and show you on these particular emails what they look like. So they're very simple nurture emails. They've got a catchy title, an image, and then a catchy introduction. And then we're just trying to get them to click and read more of our content. So the best way to create these kind of emails is just using content from your blog, or it can even be content you find around the web. It could be like related research or good ideas just from the industry, and you can link off to other sites, because what you're really trying to do is just stay top of mind and keep your brand in their inbox. So these are our live emails, and you can see this little alert here. It's just telling me there's unpublished changes on these emails. So I need to publish the latest change in order to get that live. So the idea is once they start clicking on these emails, that's showing us a level of interest where we might want to re-engage them, which is the goal of our playbook here. So I've created another message, which we'll go in and choose here, and it's called sales outreach. I'm going to add that in. So let's take a look at the sales outreach. So it's a very simple email. It says, hi, first name variable, which is like, if you read it, hi, Mike, I saw you were reading a lot of our content. Are you currently evaluating widget software? Would you like to share some time and we can chat? Now, this is not the best sales email I've ever written, but it's just a simple example for you. So you could have in here a link to schedule a time on their calendar. You could modify the template to make it look a bit more personal and less branded, but this will do the job for us for now. Now, if you do need to go in and edit this email, you can click in and edit it, go through the email setup wizard and edit the email just like any other email in Autopilot. So we can head over to the review step, make sure the links are working, send some test messages if needed down here, and we'll publish it out. And you'll see that unpublished changes indicator goes away because we've published the changes out of that email and it's ready to go. So I'll quickly just go in and clean up these emails and make them so they're also ready to go. So let me just quickly go edit, review. I think this is the quickest I've ever reviewed emails in my entire career. Okay, we'll review that one. We'll review this one. Okay, cool. So we've got our nurture email set up now. We've got our sales outreach at the top. Now, why have I put this at the top? Let's click into sales outreach. Now, on each email, we have 3 configuration options. People receive this message when, and every message you add to a playbook is automatically going to be allowed to be sent to everyone. But we need to go in and edit this because we only want this email to send when they've shown interest on the other emails in this particular playbook. So we'll click edit, we'll click filter, and we're going to choose the activity clicked email. Now we want to use frequency and time again, and we're going to say they've clicked more than 2 times. So we'll click into where and it defaults to campaign name. And we need to choose the campaign name re-engagement, which is the campaign that we're working on. And then we'll click done. So what this has given us the ability to do is make it so this message will only be received if people have clicked an email or emails more than 2 times where the campaign name is re-engagement. So now it doesn't matter which emails they click in our re-engagement campaign. They just have to click on, 2 or more of these, more than 2 times on any of these nurture emails. Now below that, we have another setting. People can receive this message. And by default, this is only once. And in this case, it makes sense to leave it as only once. But let me show you some additional options. So if you have emails like a welcome email after someone signs up for a trial, you might want to send that welcome email every single time someone signs up to your product. Or if they place an order from your store, you want to send them a confirmation email every time they place an order. So in this case, you would select more than once. So this email can be sent additional times. So every time they enter the playbook, it's eligible to be sent. Now there's an additional option here as well, which is this email is transactional. And what this allows you to do is send order notifications, receipts, and any important email that's deemed transactional. Now there are some limitations to this because we have to be, compliant with a lot of the spam laws. So there are some additional setup steps, and I'll cover transactional emails in a completely separate video. But for now, we're just going to use only once, click save, and we'll leave that setting as is. Now, the final option to go through is this message expires. And by default, it's always set to never, and we're going to leave it like that in this case. But if we wanted to, we could expire content in this playbook on a specific date. And the whole idea behind that is, imagine you've got a nurture email in here, top 10 tips for 2021, or the award Autopilot won in 2021, and you don't really want to send that in 2022, but it's unlikely you'll remember to go in and update the content or change it. So you can select an expiry date in the future, so you can expire out content that's timely. So content that really you don't want to send in a year from now, you can easily expire out by selecting a date in the future. So that's what that option's for. Again, we don't need it here, so we'll just leave it on never. Now you have a lot of your default options in here, like design, audience, report, and activity. And these are just the options you have for any normal email in Autopilot. So you can see in the audience who opened, clicked, did not click. You can see the email report when it's available. And you can see the activity that's generated from this particular email once you start sending it. So you can click into this email anytime and dive much deeper into how it works. So we'll X out of that. And then now let me cover why we put this at the top instead of further at the bottom. So remember, our messages are sent in priority order. So when someone enters, Autopilot's going to look at this first message and say, are they eligible to receive this? And of course the answer is no, because they couldn't have possibly clicked more than 2 times on our re-engagement campaign yet. So down here, they'll get this email instead because they'll validate it because it's allowed to be sent to everyone. So they'll get this nurture email, then they'll get the next one, and then they'll get the next one. And so if at this point they've clicked more than 2 times on, so they'd have to click on all these emails, then immediately at the next cycle, they're going to be eligible to receive our sales outreach. So that's why we want it at the top, because as soon as they validate our re-engagement criteria on this email, we want them to get the email immediately. So we could go ahead and add more and more nurture emails into this re-engagement. And the idea is we're essentially sending them an email every week until they either unsubscribe, show interest, and we're able to reach out, and we can re-engage them. So there's only 2 outcomes. And I think that's important to remember with a lot of these playbooks. There's no point having subscribers in your database if you're not going to email them. They're just going to go stale. So that's what this playbook methodology is. We're just going to email them every week. So you can just add more and more content in here over time. And if they show a lot of interest, we're going to reach out and try and re-engage. So let's look at the next tab, which is actions. So actions are really helpful. They can control some workflow for you when people enter or exit the playbook. And you can also add filter criteria to each action. So an action can only occur if the person who enters the playbook validates certain requirements. So we'll click new action. And there's a few different actions in here: tag person, send Slack message, update field, send to webhook. Now, your account might have more actions based on the data sources that you have connected, or the fact that we're rapidly updating the product all the time, and by the time you watch this video, it may be a little out of date. So we'll click into tag person to just show you how actions work and click next. And so say we wanted to tag everyone that enters with the tag nurture so that we know that they've been nurtured. So we just select the tag. You can select multiple tags in here, and we'll just click create. And you can see it creates this action. And in the user interface here, you can see when people enter, tag person nurture. And so you can drag the message between exit and enter, and this is when it will happen. So the moment it would happen, the moment they enter, we would tag them nurture. But if you wanted to apply a tag like nurture complete or something, you could drag this down here so it only applies when people exit. So just like the emails we saw over in messages earlier, you can click into an action and you'll see the action itself, how it flows. You've got the audience tab over here, so you can see people that where the action occurred on them or did not occur. And then over here, you've got this action occurs when a person enters the playbook. So here we can edit and apply filters to an action as well. And that's where you can control, in this case, when they enter, who the action can be applied to based on the criteria we set up. In this case, we don't need it, but it's very helpful to know that it's there. And again, we have the same option. This action can occur only once, or you can say more than once. So if they keep entering the playbook, you might want an action to happen over and over again. A good example of that is a Slack notification and a sign up playbook. Every time they sign up, you might want to send a Slack notification saying, hey, they signed up to my product. And so that's where you'd want it to continue to happen every time they sign up. Okay, so now all that's left to do after checking all of our criteria and our messages and actions is to switch our playbook on. So all we need to do is just click the switch. It's going to say prepare for liftoff. It'll tell you how many people will immediately enter just to give you a warning and a heads up. We'll click switch on. It's going to count down 3, 2, 1. And it says we have liftoff. Your playbook has been switched on successfully. Messages will begin going out to your audience. So that's it. We created our first playbook from scratch. If this tutorial has been helpful to you, you can find more tutorials like this on my YouTube channel. And if you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe and like. It helps promote the channel and put these tutorials in your notifications on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.